Welcome to The Lifestyle Herbalist, the podcast where holistic wellness meets everyday living. I'm your host, Dabney, registered dental hygienist, clinical herbalist, and certified health coach. We're passionate about bridging the gap between conventional medicine and plant-powered healing. Whether we're diving into oral microbiome health, the power of adaptogens, or just simple steps for vibrant living, our goal is to help you feel empowered with practical, science-backed, and earth-grown solutions. So grab your favorite cup of tea as we dive into this episode. Hey, welcome back to The Lifestyle Herbalist. Today's episode I'm really excited for you to know about because we're going to be unpacking a lot of information about a particular vitamin that very few people know about or even talk about. But it's so important for our microbiome, our bone health, our teeth health. So let's dive in. Vitamin K is an essential but overlooked nutrient, and it plays a vital role in multiple bodily systems. Unlike more commonly discussed vitamins like C or D, vitamin K works behind the scenes to maintain our circulatory, skeletal, and digestive health. And what many people don't realize is that vitamin K actually comes in two distinct forms. It comes in the form of K1 and K2. And today we're going to dive into what these unique features are about. But first, let's talk about the history of vitamin K. It was discovered less than a century ago, and it was known as X factor in blood clotting. And it's been since revealed to play a vital role in bone metabolism, cardiovascular health, and microbiome balance. And today we're going to explore the history of vitamin K's discovery, its physiological functions, with the emphasis on distinct roles of vitamin K1 and K2. We're also going to talk about symptoms of deficiency and toxicity, and its modern implications for preventative medicine. So the story begins in 1929 when a Danish biochemist, Henrik Dam, observed that chickens fed a fat-free diet developed spontaneous bleeding disorders. And even though they were given adequate vitamins A and C and D, they still had this disorder. It was suggested that the existence of this unknown fat-soluble nutrient was essential for coagulation. And by 1935, Dam successfully isolated the compound and he named it vitamin K for coagulation, spelled with a K. So shortly thereafter, an American researcher identified two primary forms. He discovered that there was vitamin K1, which was found in leafy greens and crucial for liver-based clotting factors. And then there was vitamin K2. These were produced by bacteria, including those in the human gut, and was found in fermented foods and animal products. Their work together earned them the 1943 Nobel Prize in Physiology and laid the foundation for modern hematology and nutritional science. So before vitamin K supplementation, 1 in 200 newborns suffered fatal bleeding. A routine vitamin K injection at birth that was introduced in 1960s reduced the incidence by over 90%. The discovery led to warfarin, a blood thinner that works by inhibiting vitamin K recycling. And this remains a cornerstone treatment for preventing strokes and blood clots. And I have to say, I have quite a few patients who still take warfarin, which is Coumadin. So the primary role of vitamin K1 is that it activates clotting factors, and it comes from the liver. So it has poor bioavailability, and only 10 to 30% of it is actually absorbed and used, and it requires dietary fat for optimal uptake. It has a very short half-life, which means our body works really quickly to get rid of it, and within hours it's completely cleared out of our body, which necessitates the daily intake in order to keep things functioning correctly. Vitamin K2 is animal-derived and also comes from fermented foods, and it lasts a bit longer in our bodies. The critical functions of K2 is that it activates osteocalcin, which binds calcium to our bones. Populations with high K2 intake show up with fewer hip fracture rates, cardiovascular protection. It activates a protein that prevents arterial calcification. And the gut oral microbiome support, which is what I am most interested in, vitamin K2 helps to support gut bacteria, and it converts K1 to K2 and promotes a balanced microbiome. But unfortunately, our modern diets and lifestyles contribute to a widespread subclinical K2 deficiency. It's linked to bone loss, cardiovascular disease, and dental problems like gum disease and cavities due to poor calcium utilization. So there are some high-risk groups like newborns, elderly, and those on antibiotics or who have a low-fat absorption or who have Crohn's disease. And even those who are gluten intolerant, a celiac, they may have a vitamin K2 deficiency. So unlike vitamin A and D, K really has no known toxicity from food sources. However, supplementing K can interfere with like the Coumadin or the blood coagulation therapy. And excessive synthetic K can theoretically over-thicken the blood in some predisposed individuals. So how can we use this essential vitamin in our everyday life? How can we prevent things from happening? So in bone health, we want to combine K2 with vitamin D. It enhances calcium absorption without the soft tissue deposits. The clinical trials show that MK7 supplements reduce bone loss in postmenopausal women. And it also helps to reduce heart disease. So K2's role in inhibiting arterial calcification positions as a non-pharmacologic intervention for arteriosclerosis. Strains like Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium produce K2, and it suggests that personalization nutrition approaches for gut dysbiosis. So having a probiotic synergy is really important. Antibiotics do affect K2. So if you have to take an antibiotic, aftercare is really important. K2 supplementation may mitigate microbiome damage from those antibiotics. Beyond its well-established role in coagulation, vitamin K has emerged as a crucial nutrient for multiple physiological systems. Vitamin K1 is primarily found in leafy green vegetables and serves as the liver's main cofactor for activating clotting factors. However, its bioavailability is limited, and it requires dietary fats for optimal absorption. It also has that short half-life that we talked about in its circulation. So consuming these leafy green vegetables is very important to keep vitamin K1 in our system. In contrast, vitamin K2, particularly MK7 form found in fermented foods like natto and certain animal products, exerts systemic effects throughout the body. It activates proteins like osteocalcin, which binds calcium to bones, and a protein which prevents dangerous calcium deposits in the arteries. These functions position vitamin K2 as a key player in bone metabolism and cardiovascular health. With epidemiological studies showing populations consuming high amounts of K2-rich foods experience lower rates of osteoporosis and arterial stiffness. Our modern lifestyles have created widespread, often unrecognized vitamin K2 deficiency. The decline in the consumption of fermented foods and grass-fed animal products, coupled with gut microbiome disruptions from antibiotics and poor diets, has led to suboptimal K2 status in many individuals. A vitamin K deficiency typically manifests very slowly, and it doesn't show the normal bleeding factors So when you have a deficiency, it's typically showing things of an increased fracture of bones, dental problems, or vascular calcifications. And while vitamin K toxicity, at least from a dietary source, is virtually unknown, using a synthetic form like a supplement can interact with blood thinning medications. So if you are taking something like Coumadin, then please consult your doctor before you start any supplementation with vitamin K. Research is promising many things with vitamin K, and it's reaching far beyond the traditional nutrient science. As far as prevention, combining vitamin K2 with vitamin D has shown promise for enhancing bone density without the risk of vascular calcification associated with calcium supplementation alone. Cardiovascular research highlights K2's potential in a non-pharmacological intervention for arteriosclerosis, while emerging studies explore its role in brain health and longevity through an anti-calcification and anti-inflammatory mechanisms. Public health challenges remain, though, including the lack of established dietary recommendations for vitamin K2 and the need for broader awareness of its food sources. Future research directions, though, include refining optimal intake levels for different populations, exploring food fortification strategies, and investigating genetic factors that could influence vitamin K metabolism. From its accidental discovery in chicken feed to its current recognition as a multifaceted regulator of human health, vitamin K's journey illustrates how fundamental nutrition research can yield transformative medical insights. While vitamin K1 remains indispensable for blood clotting, vitamin K2 has emerged as a vital nutrient for the aging populations. It offers protection against chronic diseases that dominate modern healthcare systems. Addressing the gap between scientific understanding and public knowledge of vitamin K's benefits can have far-reaching impacts on preventative healthcare strategies worldwide. The story of vitamin K serves as a powerful reminder that some of the most significant medical advances begin with careful observation of nature's subtle clues, and that optimal health often depends on nutrients we are just beginning to fully appreciate. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and a deep dive into vitamin K1 and 2. I know for me personally, it's certainly putting things together as a dental hygienist, and I certainly plan to change up some things in my own lifestyle by adding more fermented foods into my lifestyle and to my diet so that I can optimize the necessary constituencies and components of vitamin K. I'd love to know what you have learned and what you plan to do in the future. Until next time.